Hello and welcome to the In Focus series section of Drishti IAS. I am Aisha Singh, and in today's video we will be discussing about the topic that very much remains in news nowadays, and we very often hear these terms like the glaciers are melting, the ice sheets are melting, the snow of Antarctica or Arctic region are melting. So we will be looking into it, and a recent study has also been published with respect to it. So what the rapid ice melt in West Antarctica means. So even in the West Antarctica, there are news coming that the ice sheet is melting. So let's see what it is. First of all, about the timeline, we'll be looking at the news. What is a ice sheet? What does ice sheet in technical terms mean? Then how is the West Antarctica ice sheet melting? What are the reasons for the melting of ice? And in the end, prelims MCQ. Topic is of relevance from General Studies paper 3, that is environment and ecology, and especially the climate change aspect. You need to know about what is an ice sheet and what are the reasons for melting of ice. This can majorly be asked from mains perspective. So the news talks about what the rapid ice melt in West Antarctica means. Rapid ice melt. So first of all, let us look at the term Antarctica. Whenever we talk about Antarctica, let us look at its location. So this is the world map, and when we talk about the world map, then the southernmost continent is what you can say Antarctica. So this is the place where Antarctica is, that is at the South Pole, you can say. So this is Antarctica, and Antarctica is an inhabitable region. People cannot go and live there because it is completely covered with ice, and the place is not where people can actually live easily. Even though there are certain, you can say that stations are set up by different countries for the research and development, but majorly people do not go and live there. Then if we zoom out on the world map, then this is how the Antarctica looks like, and this is the South Pole. So this is the location of Antarctica on the world map. So what is happening as of now is that a study has been published in the Nature, and the study name is Unavoidable Future Increase in West Antarctic Ice Shelf Melting Over 21st Century. So in West Antarctica ice shelf melting. So this is the name of the study, and it is done by the Nature. So this study has given certain kind of findings. So on the basis of these findings, we will be talking about few things. So it is said that rapid melting of West Antarctica ice sheet due to warm waters around it is now unavoidable. So it is not talking about that, it is talking about a reason for the melting of the ice, which is usually not talked about. Usually the reasons which are talked about, you can say, are climate change, global warming, heat waves, burning of fossil fuels. So these are few of the reasons which are majorly talked about, or you can say the greenhouse effect. But the reason that has been talked about in the present study is about the warm waters around the West Antarctica's ice sheet. So because of the warm water which is present around the ice sheet, like for example, imagine that this is the ice sheet, and it is saying that the warm water which is present around the ice sheet, because of this warm water also the ice sheet is melting. And if in a very common way and in a very layman's term I would ask, then what is the meaning and what can be the consequence if the ice sheet is melting? So it is very obvious that imagine this is the ice sheet. If it will melt, then where will the water go after ice sheet will melt? It will go in the oceans, and if the water will go in the oceans, then the water level will rise. This is very basic. And if the water level will rise, so the island countries or the coastlines of many nations, or you can say, will be at risk, because if the water level will increase, like imagine that this is the water level and this is a place at which there is a island nation which is staying, and this is the difference between the water level and the island nation. So if the water level will increase, the island height will not increase, the water level will keep on increasing, and someday the island height and the water level will be at par with each other, and this is when the island will be at the risk of its existence, and it will be vulnerable, it will become vulnerable, and the people living there will become vulnerable. So this is why the problem is constantly coming up, that if the ice sheet will melt, what will happen to the island nations which are at risk. So if the ice sheet is completely lost, the ice sheet would raise the global mean sea level by 5.3 meters or 17.4 feet. So this is, if the ice sheet will melt, this is the increase in the level of water that can be expected, and this is huge, 5.3 meters. Imagine if the water level is going to increase by 5.3 meter, then what will happen to the small island nations in particular? Then potentially devastating consequence for millions of people living in vulnerable coastal cities. And water in West Antarctica will continue to get warmer three times faster than in the 20th century. So the water is getting warm at a very fast rate, 3 times faster than in the 20th century. So these are few of the findings in the Nature has been published. Now what is an ice sheet that we have just talked about, that if an ice sheet melts then this will happen, if an ice sheet will melt then the water level will, or the sea level will increase, if the ice sheet will melt then the water level will increase will so many times. Now what is an ice sheet? What is that ice sheet? That if it melts then it has the capacity to raise the water level with so much of height. So let's see that in technical terms, or you can say if one has to write about what is ice sheet, then what is an ice sheet? So it is a mass of glacial ice that covers more than 50,000 square kilometers of land. So it is huge in size. An ice sheet is something which is a mass of glacial ice. It means it is an ice, a huge land of ice. So it is around more than 50,000 square kilometers of land. So ice sheet covers more than 50,000 square kilometers of land. It means much more than a city. You can say that even a small state can come within it. So it is a huge mass of ice. So there are basically two types of ice sheet, and that is Greenland ice sheet and Antarctica ice sheet. And what we are discussing as of now is Antarctica ice sheet, because ice sheet is a huge piece of ice, you can say. So it is not that every piece of ice can be said to be an ice sheet. No, it has to be huge in size. So together Greenland ice sheet and Antarctica ice sheet together, they contain about 2/3 of the all fresh water on earth. So imagine that how big in size, or you can say how huge in size or how large in size they will be, that when they are coming together, that is Greenland ice sheet and Antarctica ice sheet, when they are coming together, 2/3 of all fresh water on earth they are forming. So it means that a rest amount is formed by all other. So if two coming together, only two aspects are forming 2/3 of all fresh water on earth, then how big the size would be? And the ice sheet gain mass. So it is very obvious, if we have a huge ice sheet, then if the ice sheet will become even more bigger and will gain mass, it means that the water level will decrease. But if the ice sheet will lose its mass, and if the ice sheet will melt, then the water level will increase. If ice sheet gain mass, fall in global mean sea level. Obvious, if ice sheet loses mass, then rise in global mean sea level. If it will lose mass, means it is melting out, and if it will melt out, it means the water is going out, and that is why the sea level will rise. Now let's see through an example, or you can say through diagram. This is the diagram of an ice sheet. Now there are few different terms also that you need to know. Okay, see this. So you can say that this is an ice sheet. This is an ice sheet, a huge glacial ice brick, you can say. It is very huge in size. We just saw more than 50,000 square kilometers in size. So this is an ice sheet. So ice sheet is static in its nature, and ice sheet is covered or is stopped through the iceberg. So ice sheet remains at its position with the help of the iceberg, because the icebergs which are present in starting of the ice sheet, or you can say in front of the ice sheet, it helps the ice sheet to remain in its position. So what happens is, like imagine this is then ice sheet. So and this is the iceberg. Now imagine that if the iceberg will start to melt and starts to lose down on its size and become small in size, then automatically the ice sheet will also start to melt down, because it was the iceberg which was protecting the ice sheet. And in front of the iceberg you are able to see the small ice patches, and that is called the ice sea. That is the sea ice. So there is an ice sheet, and then there is an iceberg, and what remains in the ice, the small broken pieces of ice, is what we call the sea ice. So the small broken pieces of ice in the sea, on the coastline of the sea, you can say, is the sea ice, and then there is iceberg. Now what will happen, imagine a situation like this is an ice sheet, this is an iceberg, and this is sea ice, and this is the, you can say, ocean. So imagine that if the water of the ocean, is getting increased in its temperature, it means the temperature is increasing. The temperature is increasing means the temperature is getting warm. When the temperature is getting warm, then the water, the ocean water, will also become warm. And if the ocean water will become warm, what will happen? The first of all, the sea ice, because they are small particles of ice, they are very small particles of ice. So if the water is warm and they are present in the warm water, they will start to melt, and because they are small in size, they will melt easily. And then the iceberg, because they are big in size as compared to the sea ice, the iceberg will also gradually start to melt. And when the iceberg will be melting and will be losing out on its size, then it will impact the ice sheet also. It will take a lot of time. The process is slow and gradual, but slowly and gradually also, if the ocean water is warm, then the ice sheet will also start to melt slowly. And if the ice sheet will melt, it will lose out on water, and the water will go into the oceans. And if the water will go into the oceans, what will happen? The ocean sea level, the ocean water level will increase. This is what is, as of now, the study is talking about. That is the ice sheet and its impact. Now, how is the West Antarctic ice sheet melting? What is the rate at which it is melting? So, there are various processes through which the melting of the glaciers or ice sheets takes place. And here we will be talking about one of them, and that is when warm ocean water melt ice shelves that I just talked about. So the point that we are here discussing is when the warm ocean water melt ice shelves. That is when the water of the ocean, the temperature is high and the water is warm. And if the water is warm, then the ice sheet will also melt. Then the edges of an ice sheet which floats on the ocean will start to melt. And West Antarctica, particularly the Amundsen Sea, so there is a sea in West Antarctica, particularly we are talking about it. Then for decades the region's ice shelves have been depleting, and the reason is the warm ocean water. So for a very long period of time, as I told you that the process is slow and gradual, because the ice sheets and the ice shelves are very huge in size, So slowly and gradually for over a period of decades, it is depleting now. Then glaciers have been flowing faster towards the ocean and the ice sheet has been shrinking. And the ice sheet has been shrinking. And now they also showed a map, and that is on one side the mass is given while on the other side the year is given. So if we will see that in the year 2005, it started from 0, 500, 1000, 1500, 2000, 2500, it is all in negative. So if we will see that in the year 2005, it was at 0, but over the years 2010, 15 and 20, and over the years we are able to see that there is depletion of ice which is taking place, that is Antarctica mass. So if you will see that slowly and gradually the graph is coming down. Starting from 0, it has reached to minus 2500. It means that depletion of ice sheets in West Antarctica is happening, even though it is happening over a very long period of time, that is decades. But now the result is showing that depletion of glaciers is taking place, depletion of ice sheet is taking place, depletion of ice shelves is also taking place. Then what are the reasons for melting of ice? It is not that one reason is there which is very particular and specific. When we talk about the melting of ice, there can be many reasons with respect to it, and all the reasons collectively is what is making an impact, which now we are able to see. And that is the reason why so many researchers and environmentalists all over the world are also talking about it and discussing about it. First and foremost can be climate change, global warming, because the temperature is increasing, and with respect to the pre-industrial times, the speed at which we are going, we will not be able to keep the temperature at 1.5 degrees Celsius. It would be fine if we will see that if we are able to stop the temperature at even around 2 degrees Celsius, but the pace at which the developed countries are going, then it would be very difficult to stop the increase in temperature to the desired level, which has even been discussed in the Paris Agreement, because the developed countries need to take the step forward in this direction and also help the other developing and the vulnerable countries. Because over a period of time, it is because of the developed countries and their emission that over a period of time the temperature has risen to different level. And you can say, be it China, be it India, be it US, be it European Union, over the years the developed nations have been responsible for the increase in the temperature, and it should be their responsibility that because of their work, the vulnerable and the island nations are suffering for something which they have not even done or they have not even been the part of, but they do not have the sufficient financial backup to save themselves. So it should be the responsibility of the developed nation, and they should take this responsibility to save the vulnerable people, vulnerable sections, vulnerable islands and vulnerable communities from the repercussions of what they have done over the years. And then heat waves nowadays are very frequent and common, and that is also one of the reasons that why the glaciers are melting. Then burning of fossil fuels, this has been a very big problem over the years for people, and now this a reason that this remains so much in news is also that the sustainability point is coming in this, and they are also very much responsible for causing the pollution. And that is why sustainability, renewable energy point is coming up, that is we are shifting towards the alternative fuels. Then warming of ocean. So when warming of ocean takes place, then the water in the ocean also becomes warm, and because of which the glaciers and the ice sheets, as we have discussed in this video only, is also melting, even though this is a slow process, but this is a continuous process. So these are few of the reasons because of which the melting of ice is taking place. Now, in the end, a prelims MCQ, and you people need to tell me the answer in the comment section, and this is also a PYQ. So, with reference to the water on the planet Earth, consider the following statements. Water. You have to talk about the correct statement. First, the amount of water in the rivers and lakes is more than the amount of groundwater. I repeat, the amount of water in the rivers and lakes is more than the amount of groundwater. Second, the amount of water in polar ice caps and glaciers is more than the amount of groundwater. Now, see, tricky, but it is fun. I think you should do this. Give me the answer in the comment section. Codes are 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. You have to talk about the correct statement. So, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Till we meet next time. Keep reading and keep writing.